Hello everyone, this video is to help you learn the general MLA formats and how to set that up in Microsoft Word. There are 7 important style criteria that you have to follow in order to correctly set up your document in MLA style. The first is to double space the text throughout the document and to make sure that no additional space is added between sections or paragraphs. The second is to make sure you have 12-point font, and it should be a clean, readable font such as Times New Roman or Arial or Helvetica. The third is to make sure that you have a header on the top left of the first page containing the following information: your full name. On the next line, the instructor's full name, including professor or instructor as a title. On the next line, the course subject, the course number, and the section number. And then on the following line below that, the assignment due date with the month written in full, not as an abbreviation. So for example, 22nd September 2018 or September 22nd, 2018. Note that the difference here is that if you choose to put the numeral in front of the month, then you don't have to have the comma after the numeral, as you would if you were to put it September 22nd, 2018. The third lesson to remember is to make sure you have a title for your assignment and that title is centered in title case, or meaning capital letters on all of the main words of the title. The fifth style criteria to follow is to make sure you have a header with your last name and page number 1/2 inch or 1.27 centimeters from the top of the page, aligned right on each page of the assignment. The sixth criteria is to make sure that all the margins of the document are 1 inch or 2.54 centimeters on all sides. Note as well, the last style criteria is to make sure if you're using secondary sources that you have a complete, accurate, works cited page at the end of the document and corresponding in-text citations throughout the text. If you don't have that and you've used additional research, then you could be committing plagiarism. All right, so how do we set this up in Microsoft Word? So let's go with our first criteria. Is we want to make sure that the text is double spaced throughout the entire document. If you find the toolbar when you start a new document, just go up here and you'll notice this is the line and paragraph spacing section. Click the little down arrow beside that. Notice by default it's set to 1. We can set this to 2, and you can just click there and it'll check that off. But I'm going to go into the line spacing options to give you a little bit more detail here. So we can make sure that there is 0 space before the paragraphs, 0 space after the paragraphs. We need to change this to double, and then we can check off this little box that says don't add space between paragraphs of the same style, and then we'll make sure that there's no additional space between sections or paragraphs. All right, so now that we've got it double spaced, now we can make sure our font is a 12-point clean readable font. So there's 12-point already by default. Let's change this to Times New Roman. That tends to be the standard that most instructors will ask for. So we've got our font as Times New Roman, 12-point. The third thing is to make sure we have our header at the top of the document. So the first line of the header should be your full name. And then we hit enter. The second line is your instructor's full name with the title. Hit enter. The next line is the course subject, course number, and the section number of the course. And we hit enter. Next line, assignment due date. There we go. And then, so we've got our header now on the first part of our first page of our assignment. So we'll hit enter. Now we need a title for our document. And we need to center justify the title. So if you go to the toolbar at the top, you'll see center text, and then it will jump to the center. We need to make sure our title is in title case, so we have capital letters for all of our main words. Okay, so now that we have our title, we can press the enter key, move the cursor down to the next line, and then remember to left justify your paragraphs, and then we can begin to type our document. etc. Okay, so that's now we've got the basic setup for our document, and we need to go to our fifth criteria and make sure that we have our header with your last name and the page number in the top right hand corner, and we want to set this up so it appears on each page of the document. The easiest way to do this is to bring the mouse cursor up to the top right hand corner and double click. If you double click, you'll notice that this should open up the header section on Microsoft Word, and you'll get the header and footer toolbar up here. We can note that the header is 1.25 centimeters from the top. We want to make sure we change that to 1.27, and just for balance, although we won't be using a footer, we can change the footer to 1.27 as well. Okay, so that will give us our half-inch header at the top where the text occurs. We need to then make sure we put page numbers, and if you click on the page numbers section here, you'll get this little page number dialog box, and you can make sure it's aligned right, show number on first page, click OK, and then you'll get yourself your page number. Now this should auto page number each page of the document. Next thing is we need to have our last name attached there. So if we click back on the home toolbar, then we can type our last name, and we need to make sure that the your name is also on the right section, so we need to go up and right justify our last name. Last but not least, because we had changed the text to Times New Roman here, we need to make sure that the header is as well in Times New Roman. So if you select your name, and then we can change the font to Times New Roman. And notice that the page number isn't changed yet, because the page number, when it's an auto page number, is a separate category. So we need to change that as well. Okay, so now we've got our header. Now if you double click it, you'll click off of the header and you'll be able to be back into the document here. So now you'll notice that if we just skip down through the document, the second page will show up with your last name and page number. Okay, so now that we've got the header with your last name and the page number, the last thing we on our list of criteria is to make sure that the margins are 1 inch or 2.54 centimeters. So if you find the layout section on the top on the toolbar and you click on that, you'll be able to find the margin category. If you hit that little arrow at the bottom, you'll open up the dialog box here. You'll notice by default on the newest version of Microsoft Word that the normal margins are 2.54 centimeters on all sides, so we don't have to change that. If we did need to change that, there is a section at the bottom where you can go custom margins, and you can adjust the margins to make sure. Older versions of Microsoft Word, the margins are usually a little bit larger on the right and left of the page. Alright, so that's it. We've got our whole document set up. The last thing just to remember, if you're using secondary sources, make sure you have a complete, accurate, works cited page at the end of the document and corresponding in-text citations throughout the document for where you've used additional research, so that you're making sure to avoid plagiarism. Alright, if you have any questions, please ask. I'm happy to help.